I found out a few years ago, it's possible to influence your state of mind by influencing your brain waves. There's a number of ways that you can do it. One which I don't recommend is plugging electrodes into the skull and influencing the brain's electricity directly. Don't do it because the currents you need to do it are extremely tiny, and it's a very dangerous way of doing it. Another way is through sound. This is something that was pioneered by the Monroe Science Institute, and he developed a technique called Binaural Beats, and basically they play two notes at the same time. Now if you play a frequency of 200 Hz and a frequency of 210 Hz at the same time, you get a third frequency audibly of 10 Hz as well. Why is this important? Well, if you wanted to get a frequency of 10 Hz into the brain, it's very difficult to do. Most loudspeakers and headphones don't go down to 10 Hz or much below 50 Hz. Most mobile phones, for instance, will only go down to about 200 Hz if you're lucky. So that's one way of doing it. And his idea was that you wear headphones, you send 200 Hz to one ear, 210 Hz to the other ear. This side of the brain hears this one, this side of the brain hears this one, and because there's a link between the two hemispheres of the brain, it mixes the two signals together, a process that's called heterodyning in electronics, heterodyne, and you end up hearing three frequencies. You hear 200 Hz, you hear 210 Hz, or you hear this modulation of 10 Hz vibrating. So that's a good way of getting them into the brain. It's a bit messy and complex. I wanted a simpler way of doing things. So it's also possible to do it a third way, and it's by using light. Now straight away I've got to say there are dangers associated with this for some people. It's controversial. Well, it will be in a minute. So people in the 70s, I used to be a mobile DJ, and we were very aware that if we had a strobe on, we had to avoid certain frequencies. In some people who are photosensitive in that way, or people who are epileptic, it can provoke a petit mal or a grand mal seizure. You don't want a grand mal seizure, not something you want to happen. So we do need to be careful doing this. And I immediately disclaim all responsibility because this is an experiment. It's not something that I can attach any guarantees to whatsoever as to what the outcome is going to be. You try this at your own risk. Preferably don't try it on your own, and keep one finger on the power button, and if you feel anything weird, then stop it. I did plan to put a timer on it, but that actually proved quite tricky. So I'm keeping this at the experimental level, and if you've got interest in it, you may want to develop the idea further yourself. So how do I plan to get it into your brain? Well, I've got this little object, and it's in pieces, so I'm just going to show you what it does. This, according to the advert on Facebook Marketplace, creates a star field in your living room, and it kind of does. Operate the switch. But they promised you could fill a room with it. Well, it barely hits the ceiling when it's on the coffee table, and the effects are rubbish. There are 3 LEDs in it and a rotating disc. The other thing that's useful in it is the battery and the charger, and possibly the DC motor. So I thought it would be nice to make this do something useful. So I created Project BraneWaiv, and it's been going on for quite a while in my mind, because I had to study what the possible side effects of these frequencies are. And what I'm saying is basically a combination of a light of a certain colour is known to influence mood. That's why when you look at plants and things, you feel relaxed. When you look at something that's bright red, it makes you alert. And this is true of this as well, to a degree. But I haven't fully tested it. I've just built the electronics. I've not actually used it yet. So what did I build? Well, I thought it'd be fun to use an ESP32. It's actually an ESP32C6 made by expressive, and connect a matrix of LEDs to it by a matrix of LEDs. Firstly, so it gets a decent light output, and secondly, so I can control how many LEDs are coming on. These are RGB LEDs. And I'll give you a warning before I do the flashing thing. To control it, I made a mobile app. So we can vary the number of LEDs from 1 to 25 in 5 steps. And we can look at 5 different brainwaves, and there's also a function to create a solid light. So if you just want to light the room up with it, you can just have a solid warm light on it. And you can vary the speed slightly, so like a 25% variation on the speed. And most importantly, you can turn it on and off. So I'm now going to turn it on. So if you are photosensitive, please look away. Now, so we start off with 1 LED. Then as I increase the number of LEDs, you go to 5, and then to 9, etc. And then we've got different brainwaves, so it does a different colour and a different frequency for each. The theta waves, bluey colour, alpha waves, a purple colour, theta waves are a red colour, gamma waves, green colour, and the app also shows the same colour on it as well. And then you can vary the speed, and you're getting strobe effect here, so I'll do that on a slower one. Faster, and that's slower, 25%. Then you can turn it off. Okay, I've stopped flashing now. No more flashing lights today. So I thought you'd be interested in how I made this project. Now, as I say, there have been studies into binaural beats done by the Monroe Institute. He did a lot of research into altered states of mind, out-of-body experiences, and astral projection. It's fascinating reading if you're into that sort of stuff. Sorry, that's the Monroe Institute. So yeah, he's done research into all these altered states of mind, not just sound science, there's other ones as well that connected to meditation, different tones, and all sorts of things. They're well worth looking into. And in my article, I've linked to some other studies as well. So this one on PON, on PLOS One, which is a scientific journal. Flickering light stimulation can induce short-term alterations in consciousness, yada, yada, yada. So I've linked to that in my document, which I'll post a link to. And the document is my thought process, really, as to how I wanted to do it. And I put the links to the source code at the top, so you can just jump straight to that. It goes about the risk of different flash levels. The 10 Hz range is the one that could cause problems. But equally, it's also the one that works the best. Now, if you're using this light, once you've built it, the idea is you put it on a coffee table and let it diffuse into the room. Don't just stare at it directly. You want a gentle effect in a darkened room. And then you keep your hand on the remote control so you can turn it off if you have an issue, and also so that you can change the things. So you can generate all these potential effects: high thought level, awakeness, alertness, relaxed, lucid, not thinking, meditative state and mental imagery, and deep dreamless sleep. So all of these things can work. Now, I've done this with binaural beats, and I felt it worked. It helped me to relax and reduce my stress levels. I also do meditate anyway, so I know I can do it that way. I thought it'd be interesting to do it with light, because people are more receptive to light, and it's easier to induce a state of mind if you're not a meditator. You could combine the techniques and you could listen to binaural beats while you're doing it. And it's all experimental. I take no responsibility for what happens to any individual person. So please be careful with it. So I thought I'd do a brief intro and then I'll go into the code. And later on I'll post the finished object, but you get the idea of what it's all about. There won't be any flashing lights during the code, so feel free to have a look into part 2 and I'll take you through how I designed it and what I used to do it. So I hope this intrigues you, and I hope you do move on to part 2. I'll put a link on the panel on the video. And welcome to BraneWaiv. And the reason I called it BraneWaiv, spelt the way it is if you search for BraneWaiv, you get too many results. So I wanted something that nobody would come along and say to me, oh, that's copyrighted. So I did a misspelling just to make it a bit funky. So there you go. So take care, and I'll see you in part 2.